Oh, we don't ever allow rising stars here. That's what I was told when I was an up and coming marketing director, signaling that I had nowhere to go but out if I wanted to make it to VP anytime soon. And that was unfortunate for me because the brand that I had built had just won the award for hottest footwear brand in the industry. And I thought, gosh, if not now, probably never. And ultimately, I did leave that company for Columbia Business School, where I hoped that I could learn how to increase my influence. And I didn't know what else to do differently. I didn't know where to turn, and coaching wasn't as popular back then. And my boss didn't even have a leadership book for me to read that he could recommend. I felt kind of stuck. And now, today, I know that there are people that can help you identify your weak spots and what leadership skills you need. And Sara and I are here to do just that for you. I'm Jill Avey, a career success coach, and this is Sister Smart Leadership, the show that explores how women can rise from director to vice president and beyond by fully leaning into their feminine energy as their biggest advantage. Let's get you one step closer to the recognition and promotion you deserve. It can be demoralizing to not get that promotion that you were hoping for, but we don't want you to lose heart. If this has happened to you, you now have information that you didn't have before. So it's important to learn how to take feedback on your way up the ladder. And this is a great chance to practice. It doesn't mean this is the end of the line for you. Instead, you can think of this as the beginning of your new journey. I did eventually get that promotion, but it just took a few more years and it took a different company. So perhaps you've ever heard this when you've asked for a promotion. You're great at what you do. Why would you want to do something else? Oh, you don't have enough executive presence. And then there's no explanation of what that would look like if you did. Oh, we don't have the budget for that. If I promoted you, I would have to promote everyone else at that level. I could go on and on with all the lame excuses that I've heard, but the bottom line is this all means one thing. You aren't being seen as the leader that is at the next level. The cure for this is to work on your leadership skills. Unfortunately, many women get stuck at this point because they turn to improving their technical skills instead. And while it's okay to take a hard look at your technical skills and see if you've got what you need for right now and in the future, what your industry needs and really having that vision of where you're going, this is the time to take these steps instead. I'd like to introduce Sara as our coach at Sister Smart as well. And Sara, I know you'd like to talk about first the growth mindset and
Yeah.
resilience that you need to take this kind of
Yeah,
feedback.
this is such a great topic, Jill. So I really appreciate you bringing this forward and those lame excuses, like they're very elusive. That's how we know that it's like, okay, what does that mean even? So getting clarity, right? So not letting this knock you off balance, but really taking it in. And it's like the first step is being able to self-reflect, like, how am I driving my career? How am I showing up when you hear that? And so one thing I like to look at first in that self-reflection is, how is my mindset? And I love how the Sister Smart program goes into really creating the foundation of having a growth mindset. Am I showing up and looking at these challenges like that there is a gift in this challenge? Right. And so the one gift I feel like when we don't get the promotion is looking at your leadership and looking at the holes and getting feedback from other people inside of your industry, right?
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to think about here is in positive intelligence, we think about there's a gift in every situation. So even if it's a terrible situation, you can create a gift out of it. And, what you're talking about, Sara, here is that mindset. Often we don't take the steps to really take that deep look at ourselves and our situation in our career. And these kinds of setbacks can make a hard stop and really do that soul searching that we need to do. And so sometimes this can be the impetus. That's a huge gift to be able to really take a look at things. And sometimes we need that. We need that motivation because we get caught in the day to day and we're not doing that kind of thing regularly, anyhow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you also, when we're talking about getting feedback from people, tell me a little bit more about how you can do that. First, I'll start with in our Sisters in Leadership program, we've got what's called the 4-question interviews. And I think that's a really great way for people to go out and have some conversations with like 3 to 5 people 3 of the questions are all on positive things and what you're doing when you're doing well, and then the one question at the end is about, "What do you see me doing when I'm not at my best?" And so that's a really great question to help you find those blind spots and the things that might be holding you back.
Yeah, and that's so much
What
different than the traditional 360 where you may not know who's answering what. You get that nice, I mean, in a gentle way, because you're having a conversation, you're building trust, and you're really finding out like how are you being perceived. And if we don't have these like conversations, it could be years till we find out what people's perceptions of us are. So I think that is a really great tool to just level set like, where am I? How am I being perceived in the organization? Along with self reflecting on how am I showing up as a leader? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one client who did the 4-question interviews. She was a program manager. She led a lot of meetings and it was very good at her job and was highly rewarded. But she found out in these interviews that she was not being perceived as being open and really listening very well. And she thought she was very open. And so that came as a shock to her. And it was one of the best gifts that they could have given her because through our program, she created a whole different way to run her meetings, and it really shifted that for her, and she became, like, the best at listening instead of being perceived as sort of pushing things through more, and so that was a really powerful thing for her.
Oh,
Um,
wow. What a gift.
it was. While she wasn't being held back from a promotion, it was the same sort of factors that she got from that. So mentorship is another thing that you've talked about in the
Mhm.
past, Sarah.
Yeah. And as a coach, I have seen clients just benefit so much by working one on one with a coach, focusing on their goals and helping with leadership skills. But the mentorship, I feel like it goes really hand in hand with the coaching because the mentors are inside of the organization. They know the political climate of the organization. They could help put certain stones on in your path to support you to get the support you need to the next level. And they can even open up different doors with their network who with people you may not know or have known of. So I think mentorship is really important, especially when working with a coach and you have really specific goals like I want to up level my career, I want to up level my leadership. And those mentors have probably walked through the fire, so to speak, and they can support you and getting to that next growth level. So I highly recommend working with a mentor. Some organizations have more organized type of mentorship programs, but if your organization doesn't, I recommend just looking at different org charts, like who would you like to have as your mentor? And then just checking in, like doing an informational interview. Tell me a little bit about the day in the life of you and would we be a good fit? Like, could you support me and leveling up? So I highly recommend mentorship.
Mentorship can be so powerful because when you're talking to leaders who are at levels above you, they have a different viewpoint of the whole organization and they understand the politics of the organization in a very different way than you do. And so I always appreciate when people can do both coaching and mentorship to have that information coming from inside the company that as coaches we don't know the ins and outs of every company, and so having that guidance is really powerful for people. I'm totally with Sarah here that we really encourage people to go out and find mentors when there's not even when there is a formal mentorship program. I mean, it's always good to have a handful of people that you can talk to, especially when you're getting feedback like this of you're not ready yet for promotion, that outside feedback and that mentor can tell you more about how you're perceived within the company rather than just your team, and they have that bigger view. So I think that can be really helpful in this circumstance.
Yeah.
And there's always leadership programs like Sisters in Leadership, which really bring that whole community aspect so you can look at what other women who are in the same situation that you're doing, what are they facing? What are they doing differently than you're doing? What are the same struggles that they're having, and how are they going about solving those issues? And then there's also our curriculum that's built to give you those leadership skills that you need to be seen at that next level. So as women, we need to be performing at the next level that we want to get promoted to before we can get that promotion, because we're promoted based on our performance, whereas men are typically promoted based on their potential. So we really have to do our leveling up ahead of time before people can see that potential in us.
One other thing that I feel can hold women back, and we talk about it in Sister Smart. And one of the resources, How Women Rise, is being able to communicate and share your achievements. I know sometimes we'll
Yes.
feel like, oh, I don't want to brag about myself. And it's not bragging, it's providing information to your leadership team who is extremely busy, right, on what the work that you're doing and the impact that you're having. So, how can we do it in a way that we're providing that information regularly? It's not just every 6 months, right? Or we're not waiting to be seen, noticed, and then eventually promoted, but we're actively engaging in the work we do that impact our brand.
Yeah, I think almost all of our clients come in having some room for improvement here because, it's so tempting to just keep your head down and keep working harder and hoping people will notice that how great you are and what good work you do and what good ideas you have and how much potential you have. But that's not the reality. And the reality is, like you said, people have busy lives and they're not necessarily even paying attention to what you're doing. So having that time that you go out and socialize your work and your ideas and get feedback on things and find out, here's something that I'm working on and what do you think about that? You can really improve what you're doing, and then at the same time you can also let people know what you're up to, and that can really help increase the visibility of your work. And I think visibility is one of the things that women can almost always improve on, is making their brilliance more visible to everyone
Right,
else.
right. And not to mention, you're building relationship when you're
Yes.
communicating and having these conversations with others, becoming more visible, like building that relationship, building trust, right? They know where you eventually want to go. So I think it's kind of like if we go to talk a little bit about what Brene Brown speaks to, is like really being authentic and transparent of who we are in these conversations.
And I think the last question on my mind, Sarah, is how do you know when it's time to move on, or do you stay at your current company?
Yeah, that is
What
such
are
a
your
good question because when we don't get the promotion, we want to know, is it time for me? So I think one indicator is when you have the conversation with your manager about feedback, is the feedback clear? Do you know what the gaps are in your leadership? Or is it that elusive, you're just not ready yet? You need to build your executive presence. You need to show up a little bit more like so and so, right? So, really get them to tie down some specific behaviors. So, you want to make sure that your manager is your cheerleader, that they're supportive of you. And so, one way to figure that out is with the feedback that they give you. And then also, how is their political standing in the organization? Are they an up and coming leader? Are you working with an up and coming team? So, those are a couple indicators to give you some information that is it the time to start looking at something external? Or is there a group or a team position that you could move to make a lateral move?
I think that's such good advice, Sarah. We had one client that she worked really hard over the whole program. She made great gains. Her leadership had improved so much. And yet her boss still was not recognizing that in her. It was like he saw her as the person that he had met years before when she was a consultant and knew him. And it's like when your parents see you as a kid always. Sometimes people don't see your growth and they're not your cheerleader and they're not there trying to see your growth and trying to help you get there. And so this was a boss that didn't have a lot of that social capital, and she just wasn't able to get the promotion that she was looking for. And so she ultimately ended up looking somewhere else, got that promotion in the new job, got a huge raise. It was great for her. And right after that, this boss got moved to a special project. And so he was no longer even in leadership. So really the company was seeing that he wasn't a great leader either, And then that was her skip level boss. And then her boss actually took a new job right then too. So the whole department kind of fell apart right after that. So sometimes that ambiguity that you're talking about, Sarah, can be a symptom of something much greater that's going on that's just not going to support your career. I do tend to encourage people to stay where they're at
Mhm.
first because, it's like the new used car when we get a new job. It's the devil that you know where you're at. And so you are often able to make a lot more gains. You already have relationships created, you already have successes in that role, probably. And so building off of that with building your leadership skills can make a tremendous difference for people. And I've seen people really turn around situations that weren't working for them at all. But through the leadership program that we have, they've been able to really have a different brand and a different reaction from people when they're speaking to people. And what that can do is that can really help you to make those moves because the company knows you and they trust you. And so often you'll get opportunities within your company that may be harder to get. That jump from director to VP that we talk about a lot in our program, that often they're looking for VPs within the company because it's less risky for the company to hire from within. That can be a little bit harder leap going outside. So that's something to consider as well. And
Right.
often there's so much that you can do to improve within your organization, even when it's not going great for you now.
Right. Because we never know if we're going to get a lemon. So,
Exactly.
so, and you've got the social capital and the relationships and where you're at right now. So see if you can make it work there before checking out something new, is what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's so right. And then if it's not working for you, that's your cue to move. And sometimes this company was a great fit when you started, but it's grown or it's gotten bought out or merged or management's changed. Lots of things can change where you're just not a right fit anymore. This doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It just means that this isn't the place for you to thrive. And so determining that can be really important as well.
Mhm. And that's what I love about the other thing about your program is the community of support of women, like to share these conversations and experiences with, and then hear what other women have done in those situations. So just having that internal internal mentorship within the program, I think is great to bounce these situations off of each other.
It's so great because there's always other women who have gone through ups and downs like you have. And when you're going through disappointing news where you thought that maybe this was your time to get promoted and then you find out this isn't happening, everybody's had some kind of disappointment like that in the community. And so you can get a lot of support, and there may be somebody that is going through that same thing right now or has recently. And so it's wonderful to hear how other people deal with it and the steps that they take
Right.
and how they are work to move forward. I remember when that happened to one of our members. She was in line to get promoted at her 6-month review, and her boss had told her she needed to work on her strategic skills, and she had done that, and her boss had acknowledged that they had really improved and that they were excellent now. And so she thought this was a sure thing that she was getting this promotion. And instead, what happened was she didn't get the promotion. Her boss ended up leaving and she ended up with a new manager who used to be her peer. And she was really disappointed with that. But she had such a great attitude and she didn't let that hold her back. She created a great relationship with her new manager, and this new manager really got behind her and helped her to get more visibility to the executive team. And so I think she ended up stronger in the company because of that situation happening. And then she was really right on target, and they promised her that she would get that promotion at the next review. So it really helped her a lot to position herself in a much stronger place. And when you talked about resilience and growth mindset, she really brought that to this situation and ended up the gifts that we talk about in
Mhm.
positive intelligence. That gift was that visibility to senior leadership that will help her from here on out.
What a great story. I love that.
She was so inspiring. So we like to end each episode with 3 shifts that you can take today. So, first, take a look at each of the roles that you've had in the past and see the common skills, what you were using when you were at your best. These are the things that you're going to really want to emphasize. So, and the second shift that you can make is to look for opportunities to move up into roles to do more of what you do well. And that might be inside your company, it might be special projects, it might be a lateral move, or it could be a move outside of the company. Sometimes we have to move on, is where we need to go. And then third, determine which skills you need to build to get there. So, where you want to go and where you are now, you've been told there's a gap. So determine what skills those are. Do some interviews with people like we were talking about can be your first step, or talking to that mentor. These are the things that we can do to get there. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What is this something that's ever happened to you that you've got overlooked for a promotion? Has it happened to anybody that you know? And what is one thing that you would say to encourage somebody to, if it's happened to them, to keep going and to keep focused on their path forward and to find out what the solutions are rather than letting this hold them back? The next things that you can do are to download the career map checklist. There will be a link in the show notes for that. And what this will do is it will help you determine your next steps. So this will really help you to look at your career so far and where you want to go, and how you can map out that trajectory for yourself. And if you are a female leader who has the ambition to rise up the ladder so that you can have greater impact on your world, subscribe either on YouTube or where you like to listen to your podcasts. And we'll be covering the topics that women leaders need to succeed in today's workplace, from executive presence to communication. And there's so much more to come if you'd like to come along. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you in the next episode. If you're ready to fully lean into your feminine leadership and get promoted from director to vice president and beyond, hit that subscribe button so you'll get all the episodes to come. And check out the recommended video here to see how women are rising up without playing by the old rules that built these male-dominated industries and systems.